This looks expensive. This looks like someone spent way too much on this. Where the fuck am I? Do I have less facial hair than last time? What sense does that make? Was I doing something? I was talking about Smash, right? I was talking about Smash, I think? Let's see here. Last upload was 6 months ago. Huh. I mean, that's not like too long. That's only like what? Half a year? There couldn't have been too much that happened, right? Oh! No! Hey there. Yeah, that was a little gap there. Sorry about that. Last time we were here, I guess, we were talking about who was going to be revealed at the Game Awards and why I thought it was going to be Doom Guy. And yeah, that didn't go as planned at all. And that cycle continued, which is why I didn't really make many videos. Here's the thing, let's get this out of the way. I'm not one of these big Smash speculation guys. I'm not here to just shit out a bunch of little small talking points over and over and over. If you want one person who uploads on a frequent basis and isn't just doing it for money and genuinely cares about speculation, Papa Gino's always does a really good job. He seems like a guy that genuinely does care about Smash speculation. He doesn't just pick whatever little 4chan tidbits or fake text leaks come up or whatever. And he does have a lot to say a lot of the times, and he often does lead the conversation in a very interesting way. Definitely uploads a lot more frequently than I do, so you should probably check him out. But let's get into why I never really followed up on that last video, and what my actual original plan was for Smash speculation as a whole. So originally, I'm talking Fighters Pass 1. Originally. This was probably back when I think maybe Joker just got revealed. But I was gonna do a little Smash E3 predictions video before the eventual reveal of Hero and Banjo. Eventually, I just couldn't get it out in time. That moved on. I'm like, okay, I'll do it for the next character. Then Terry came out, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna wait till the end of Fighters Pass 1, and then I assumed there was gonna be a second pass. There was. And then I was like, you know what? I'll make a predictions for the second Fighters Pass. Within probably 3 to 4 days of me finishing the script, they revealed Min Min. Or not revealed Min Min, but announced that there was going to be an ARMS character, and that threw a whole wrench into things. So I had to keep retooling that. Then Min Min got announced, actually. I'm like, okay, that'll be fine. Then Steve got announced. And I think eventually I just sort of gave up on doing that really long Fighters Pass video. I think at that point I was just like, I'll do the Game Awards video, and then if I have time afterwards I'll work on that really long video. Also, forgot to mention too, it wasn't just predictions. I actually retroactively went back and reflected on a lot of the character choices that already happened. Not even just for Smash Ultimate, I'm talking even like Smash 4 DLC. And I wanted to like use little bits and pieces to like try and figure out what the next characters were going to be. But that ended up taking way too long. I think I eventually just decided I'm just going to let the pass happen, and then I'll probably use that script later on for just a reflection on all the characters that happen. And that probably will still happen. But if you did want to see my Fighters Pass 2 predictions pre-character announcements, here they are now. So, as you can tell, I'm doing a pretty good job so far. So yeah, in between those small little gaps between the last video and now, I kind of just decided I can't predict this shit anymore. I really can't. Every guess I had going into the reveals just did not end up panning out whatsoever. But we're here now. There's one character left, and I decided, you know what? I think I do have something up my sleeve for this one. But before we do that, I gotta make up some lost ground, and we have to go back and retroactively go over the characters that were in this little gap of time. Starting with the character that was revealed at the Game Awards. So, yeah, not Doom Guy. Surprisingly enough, a lot of my thoughts on what that character choice would be did end up coming true. It just wasn't for the character I thought it was at all. Yes, Sephiroth is a very shocking character. He's a very popular character. He's a character that did have presence at the Game Awards because of Final Fantasy VII Remake. It made perfect sense that he happened, but at the same time, why the fuck would I ever think Sephiroth would happen? Go back and look at Square's scarcity for content when it came to things like Cloud and the Dragon Quest heroes. Really only 2 tracks between all of them if we're really thinking about it. And why would I ever think we would get anything more from Final Fantasy VII or honestly any Square rep at all? I really didn't think it was going to happen. But in hindsight, it makes perfect sense. We finally got an actual decent track listing. We got another stage. We got a boss fight even. When it came to Smash DLC in particular, it was kind of rare to see characters from series that were already represented in Smash. Usually that was only for returning veterans like Lucas and Mewtwo. But Sephiroth did happen, and it also leads perfectly into the next character, which was Pyra and Mythra. Oh yeah, Xeno Knockers, baby. Definitely didn't see that coming at all, especially after the Rex Mii costume, but again, made perfect sense. With Rex not making base games, Xenoblade 2 wasn't really getting as much representation as it could have in Smash. Sort of in a similar vein to Min Min and ARMS, where all we really had before them was the Spring Man Assist Trophy and like some Mii costumes. It definitely was a good choice by Nintendo. It especially made a lot of Xenoblade fans really happy. And plus, hey, they didn't put it at the end of the pass like they did with Byleth, so didn't end up being too big of a disappointment for some people. Plus, let's be honest, I think a lot more people wanted Pyra and Mythra more than they want Rex. It's fine that he's just a Mii costume. And speaking of Mii costumes, wow.
Yo!
Are you serious? No! Did not anticipate a Tekken character, especially after the Heihachi Mii costume. Who the fuck saw that coming? It was definitely taking Namco a while there to finally get a character in Smash. And honestly, with how long the Lloyd Mii costume was taking, I really thought it was going to be him. But again, in hindsight, I think it makes more sense. Tekken is huge. It's like, again, one of the biggest fighting game franchises that we finally get to put alongside Fatal Fury and Street Fighter within Smash. Obviously, these characters have crossed over and had their own little bouts before, but in Smash, whoa! So yeah, that was something. I also know that I usually wait until after the presentations where they show off the Mii costumes that come along with the character, just in case there's any deconfirmations or anything. But I think it's more fun to just get this video out now and then see what happens at the presentation. But here we are. One character left. And despite me thinking that I just can't predict where they're going to go next, and I should probably just give up, I got one more little hunch up my sleeve. Now, obviously, with only one character left and other characters and franchises getting either deconfirmed or narrowed down because of things that have happened, it's definitely a lot easier to try and piece together who the last fighter could be, but nothing's still concrete yet. Realistically, the possibilities are endless, but there's still some factors that not only played a part in this pass, but also previous passes and DLC choices that we can look at and sort of try to fit the mold of what this character could be. There's another fan theory going on currently that there was only 2 slots left for new series music in the sound test, and obviously that makes sense because when we got Pyra and Mythra, obviously that music just gets added to the Xenoblade stuff. Same with Sephiroth, gets added to the Final Fantasy VII tracks, so on and so forth. So past Pyra and Mythra, that leaves 2 slots left for a new series to get music in Smash. Obviously, Tekken is one of them with Kazuya, and then that probably leads to the last fighter, which is probably from a new franchise, to get music there. What that music theory essentially states is that no series that are currently in Smash are probably going to get any more reps remaining on this Fighter's Pass. Now, that doesn't leave out new first-party Nintendo stuff, like maybe like a Rhythm Heaven character or some shit like that, but again, I'm just leaning more towards that not being the case. Based on a lot of that's happened so far with this second pass, I can imagine that a lot of people are looking at first-party characters as a sort of Nintendo choice, but usually when it comes to the end of Smash DLC, both Sakurai and Nintendo know that it's probably best to go with the third-party pick. Now, obviously, that's not a rule that's set in stone. Believe me, we've been scorned before. But I'm mainly talking about end-of-game DLC. When it comes to Bayonetta, that was a character that was chosen through the Fighters Ballot. But that was also, in Sakurai's own words, amongst realizable fighters, and we came to figure out later on that a lot of Fighters Ballot choices ended up influencing the base roster of Smash Ultimate. I think at the time, because Sakurai was working on Ultimate anyway and getting a lot of these veteran characters back, he really didn't want to focus on a brand new third-party IP that would really get a lot of people excited. One rule that has remained consistent, at least up until this point in Fighters Pass, is that when it comes to third parties, it's usually per pass, one company per character slot. So even though Steve was in the works for upwards of 5 years to get to Smash, they probably didn't put him in the first Fighters Pass because they were already going through with Banjo already. And probably still trying to get Steve to work in the fucking game, which is a miracle that even happened. But again, it makes a lot of sense that you wouldn't want to put Steve and Banjo within the same Fighters Pass, because then that's just 2 Microsoft slots, and it seems like they're just making a lot of bank off one pass. So unfortunately, as much as I think he'd be a great character to end off on, I don't think Master Chief is actually going to be the final character. Between Steve's inclusion on this pass and recent comments from 343 employees about his inclusion in Smash at all, which probably lean more towards no, it just doesn't seem like it's in the cards, unfortunately. Believe me, I'd like to be wrong in this scenario. I think Chief would be a perfect way to end the Fighters Pass and Ultimate as a whole, but it just doesn't seem like currently that that's lining up to be the case. Now, earlier I mentioned a theory regarding sound tests when it came to series music, but there's also one going around currently that was also true for the first Fighters Pass that is in regard to character voices. In the first Fighters Pass, there were 6 voice slots. In the first Fighters Pass, there were 6 voice slots, despite there being 5 characters. Now, what ended up happening is that Byleth got added, and that character has 2 alts, a male and a female, which end up using 2 different voice slots. When it comes to Pass 2, there are again 6 slots, and that makes sense because there are 6 character slots. But with Pyra and Mythra, along with Sephiroth adding a new voice for Cloud, that ends up filling out some of those gaps. Now, luckily, despite Steve having 4 alts, obviously none of those characters talk at all or make any real sound, so none of those spots were wasted. But here we are finally with Kazuya, who's going to take up that final slot, and there's no voice slots left. So now we're here with 1 character slot left, and surprisingly no voice slots left for that character, which leads me to believe that that character does not have a voice whatsoever. So now this is what we have to go off. We have a character that isn't from any of the companies that are previously in this pass already, that does not have a voice. That definitely slims down the choices a lot, but there's still a handful of characters to go with. It should be noted, though, that because I'm considering this a factor, it does eliminate a lot of really popular speculation choices like Crash Bandicoot, Ryu Hayabusa, possibly even Rayman. On the flip side, however, it does open up a lot of potential for characters that you wouldn't really normally expect. This image by Playsetter, I think, actually brings up a lot of good points as to why Frisk is actually a pretty high possibility at this point. But for me, I still don't think that it's probably going to end up panning out, especially because there's already the Sans Mii costume. Now, Kazuya has shown that a character could get a costume earlier on from their series, but end up being a fighter later on. But with Undertale, I think it's a bit different. Because I actually do think if they went with a character, I think they probably would have went with Sans. To me, the Sans Mii costume is Sakurai saying, hey, I really like this series and this franchise, and I want it represented in this game, but I can't really get the character to work at all. There are a lot of other silent indie protagonists that I think have a pretty good shot of getting in at this point, like Hollow Knight and Quote from Cave Story. But again, as popular as these games are and these characters are, I think it makes more sense for them to be Mii costumes. I don't think they have as much weight and as pull as Undertale does, surprisingly. And if Undertale I don't think is going to get a costume, I can't imagine either of these two will. I'd still say Hollow Knight has a pretty decent chance just because of how popular that game became, but I don't know. It's possible. It's definitely possible. I'm not saying it's not. It's why I'm bringing it up altogether. But I just don't know if it's what they would end on, you know what I mean? As big as the indie scene has become within the past few years, I don't imagine that an indie character is what you want to end your big game celebration of all video game history and of the sort, you know what I mean? I don't think that would be the way they choose to end it. It'd definitely be cool, but it's just not what I think Nintendo would choose. We always got to keep in mind that at the end of the day, Sakurai and Nintendo, both in tandem, I feel like, choose who gets in Smash. If we go back to Bayonetta as an example, Platinum and Nintendo had a really good relationship going. Both Nintendo and Platinum and Hideki and Sakurai had a very good working relationship, and that's probably a lot of the reason why Bayonetta was that final cap-off character to Smash 4. On the topic of Kamiya, Capcom characters are both really popular choices and also very likely choices when it comes to Smash. And unfortunately, because of voice theory, a lot of really popular ones like Phoenix Wright, Dante, even stuff like Frank West, probably get eliminated from the pool. But there is one that I don't think a lot of people were really eyeing up when it came to Smash speculation, but has always sort of been my like sleeper pick, and that's Amaterasu from Okami. Keep in mind, Nintendo has always been very supportive of Okami as a franchise, supporting it from early GameCube days all the way up to Wii U and Nintendo DS spin-off titles. On top of that, Amaterasu is in a super sought-after pick to get into Smash, and it's definitely a character that's very different from Smash. We don't really have many quadrupeds or like animal characters, and Okami's visual style as a whole is also very far off from what Smash usually fares in. So it'd definitely be a very interesting character to end off on, and honestly, I'd like to see it happen. But there is one important detail that I'm missing out when it comes to that voice theory I was talking about. When I say voice theory and character voices, that also includes things like animal grunts, like the noises K. Rool makes, and like Pokemon saying their name and things like that. Just any sort of like vocal sound. Now, what that doesn't include is things like Pac-Man noises and like Mega Man sounds and things like that, or like Game & Watch sounds even. Those are sounds. Those are an entirely different thing. I'm talking about voices. Like, let's say Wolf growls and his like howling, which again sort of leads me to believe that even though I think Amaterasu is a perfect pick here and makes a lot of sense when you like consider the voice theory, if you really think about it more critically, she ends up not actually being compatible here. Now, she could just not howl. That's entirely possible. But if Marvel 3 is anything to go off of, she do be barking. Another thing I want to mention too is that most old Smash 4 Capcom related Mii costumes have been coming out with non-Capcom related characters. Like the Monster Hunter Mii costumes, even the new Arthur one. That didn't come alongside with any Capcom characters yet. That came alongside with other characters. I think it makes more sense to release those costumes alongside an actual Capcom character rather than just throw them with whoever. And especially Okami, I don't imagine you're going to get many Okami series costumes. I'd imagine you get more other Capcom franchises getting Mii costumes alongside that character. But again, most of those costumes have already come and gone by. Given these circumstances, I just don't think it's going to happen. It's definitely something to keep in mind, but again, I just don't think it's what's going to happen. I have my eyes set on someone else, and I cannot believe we're back here again, but speaking of Mii costumes, and speaking of sort of associated Mii costumes that happen earlier on and then a character comes later, can we talk about this? You really think that that's all they asked for? I know you're probably sick of hearing me drone on about this character, but through thick and thin and even practical deconfirmations, he lives. I don't know how we keep coming back to him, but when I really think about it, I think this is his best shot. Let's start with that Marty Stratton interview. One thing I did not mention last time that I failed to was that while E3 2018 was going on and Ultimate was being revealed, it was public knowledge that Bethesda and Nintendo were talking. It was public knowledge. Now consider this. You're Marty Stratton. You know that most people knew that Nintendo and Bethesda did talk with each other about whatever. Just whatever. It could have been anything. But there's no hiding it. So let's say you're Marty Stratton in that scenario and you don't want to reveal something. What is the best thing you do? You deny it completely. You just say, yeah, you know, the talks didn't really go anywhere. It just, you know, just wasn't in the cards. Then what's this? Why is this here? We went over last time, too, that interview could be considered an NDA break. But at the same time, I think we should go back and look at Grant Kirkhope's tweet before E3 2018 when Banjo was revealed, where he said, don't count on it. It's just a flat-out denial. Just don't. It's not going to happen. Don't get your hopes up. I consider Marty's response in that interview in a similar vein, especially when you take into account that it was public knowledge that Nintendo and Bethesda had talks going on. Keep voice theory in mind. Voice theory, up until this point, has been proven right for both the first Fighter's Pass and the second Fighter's Pass. So currently it says that the last fighter is not going to have any voice lines at all. Now, current Doom guy in the current Doom series, we'll say like 2016 up until end of Eternal, including the Ancient Gods Part 1 and 2, barely talks. He does it very, very rarely. So with that out of the way, we come back to the question of what reason does Nintendo and Sakurai have to put this character into Smash? Now, on the Nintendo side of things, we've seen in the past with characters like Joker and even Kazuya that even though you don't have a huge presence on Nintendo consoles, it's still just a matter of seeing the crossover happen and getting people in the seats. But Doom Guy is a special case because, like Terry, a lot of his library of games are available on the Switch currently and also have past history on other Nintendo consoles like the SNES and the Nintendo 64. You can play every single main series Doom title on Switch at the moment, which is honestly surprising, but it is what it is. And I imagine Nintendo would keep wanting to promote it like they just did this past E3 with the Ancient Gods Part 1 being announced for release. Now, like we mentioned previously on the last video, even though Bethesda is now owned by Microsoft, currently, that probably wasn't the case when the talks for this character allegedly happened. Obviously, this is just speculation. At the same time, Bethesda is still also their very own company, and they have their own very own moniker in Smash for their Vault Boy Mii costume. And again, we just keep coming back to it. Why is this here? Again, I get it's like, they do Mii costumes with franchises and then that's all it is, but like, it's Bethesda. You think that's really all they asked for? You think that's the one thing they wanted was just a Vault Boy Mii costume and then they fucked off? Like, what makes way more sense to me now, in hindsight, is that the Vault Boy Mii costume was included with Min Min because alongside a potential Doom guy, there'll probably be a slew of Doom-related costumes to go along with him. Amongst other things, like other potential deluxe Mii costumes, like, say, Hollow Knight, or Among Us! And once again, we come to the argument that this character is way too Western-focused. It's not going to work out as a final character release for the broader public. Once again, I want to go back to Bayonetta ending off Smash 4. According to the Fighters Ballot and Sakurai's own word of mouth, she was the #1 most popular character in Europe. Not NA, not Japan or anywhere else, in Europe. Of the realizable characters, obviously. And again, they probably just picked her because Bayonetta 2 was on Wii U and the sort, but again, really think about it. It was a character they ended that game off with. A pretty popular character in the West. Well, they could go for a more Eastern-focused rep, like, say, I don't know, a Shin Megami Tensei 5 protagonist or something like that. Sakurai does, a lot of the time when it comes to these last characters, go for pretty broad appeal. We have to keep in mind, this is the last character, not only for this Fighter's Pass, but for Smash Ultimate as a whole. It is done after this. Sakurai has gone on many of times saying he hopes to take a really nice, long rest after this. So if you're thinking of, you have that in mind, think of that. What is a character you would want to end this pass off on? Probably a character with a lot of broad appeal that's kind of shocking, like really shocking. Bayonetta was shocking when it happened. We didn't really have any real M-rated reps in the game at that point. This isn't to say I feel like you need to cap off with a character like, I don't know, Scorpion from Mortal Kombat or anything like that. But it is a trend. It's things we've seen before and things that have happened before and ended up being real. And again, I need to bring up Doom's history as a franchise, as a piece of gaming history. Whether you realize it or not, Doom influenced what is probably one of the most popular video game genres possible, on top of being such a mainstay in popular culture and things like that. Think of how many BFG references you see in games, how many allusions you see to Doom's original sprite work, and like the UI, and all these little like in-jokes. Hell, I'd say compared to Master Chief, Doom definitely has a lot more Eastern appeal. Just because Doom modding is such a huge thing, there's probably at least like a few Doom mods that were popular in Japan. Currently, every Doom game possible is on Switch. You have a reason to get more people interested in this franchise that normally wouldn't experience it. And plus, despite being a very violent game, most Doom games are localized in Japan, unlike stuff like, say, previously mentioned Mortal Kombat. And the most important thing to note is that when it comes to Smash, as impossible as things seem sometimes, as out there and as many hurdles as we could see for it, most of the time, it ends up happening. We did this with Cloud, we did this with Bayonetta, we did this with Steve, and Sephiroth, and all these other characters. It can happen. It can really happen. And I think especially to cap off Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, a game that celebrates countless video game genres, countless legendary video game franchises, to end off on something that Smash really doesn't have yet, but is still so important to, again, not only just gaming as a whole. Doom was huge on Nintendo. Why do you think Doom 64 is called Doom 64? It's a lot more important than I think people give credit for. And I do think it would be a really surprising and really fun way to end not only this Fighter's Pass, but Smash Ultimate as a whole. I think it'd be a great cap-off. I think a lot of people would agree. Yes, I know, I am a little biased. We've gone through this many times, but after Kako Mallow being deconfirmed and the Marty Stratton interview, I made peace with it. I thought he was done for, and I was totally fine with just the rest of the past being what it was. But now we're here at a final character, and all these things seem to be lining up for this. What I think would be a really great cap-off to this game. And not only that, but maybe the one prediction I could get right. This is it. This is the last time I really get to speculate Smash stuff. Because after this, it's probably going to be reboots and retoolings of characters, and the roster is going to be nowhere near the way it is now. Which is definitely its own can of worms to open up, but this is just a mainly speculation video. But yeah, man. Here we are again. We're almost a full year, half a year, and for some god knows why reason, I'm still talking about Doom Guy getting into Smash, even when it seems like the most unlikely thing in the world that's ever gonna happen. But here we are, man. Things just keep piling up and piling up and piling up. And the longer it goes on, surprisingly, the better it seems. But that's it for now, man. Hopefully, I could just let things ride out for now, and I don't have to do much talk on Smash speculation stuff. At least when it comes to, like, video content. I think I'd rather move on, do some other fun stuff for games, other games. I may do one more Smash-related video just talking about something, but I would rather... I'm not block content. I'm not going to be fucking shitting out these speculation videos. I'm no Lax Chris. But again, I still really do like speculating Smash a lot. Especially now, with the last character on the horizon, it's really fun. And this is my last time to dip my toes into it. But, that's all I gotta say. I'll probably throw up my usual links at the end card here. Thank you again for watching this, if you made it all the way through. And especially if you've been watching my streams on Twitch, or even like following me on Twitter, or even just waiting here for me to upload again. It really does mean a lot, and I really appreciate it. I promise you won't have to wait another 6 months for another video. That's one you can definitely hold me on. But once again, thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And hey, here's looking at you, kid. Take care. Can it be I stayed away too long? Did you miss these rhymes when I was gone? As you listen to these crazy tracks, check them stats and you know where I'm at. And that's that.